Good morning. Welcome to Plugged In. More from the story of Daniel right after this. And welcome back on this gloomy Monday morning. It's April 1st. You know what that is. April Fool's Day. And so watch out for the pranksters. And have a wonderful day. So we're in Daniel chapter 1. We've just kind of hovered there like a plane over its landing strip. Just kind of keep circling around it because there's just things that I keep finding in it that maybe I'd never seen before. Has that ever happened to you? Maybe you've read something or heard something, but you just can't seem to get it off your mind, or you just keep going back to it because there just seems to be something there. Now, it could be that it's a book about some sort of research. It could be that it is a set of instructions or directions, which I will tell you right now, I hate to read when I'm putting stuff together, but then I end up having to go and read it and read it and reread it. And that's the great thing about the scriptures. They're living and active, and you just grab a hold of something, or it grabs a hold of you, more or less, and you just can't get something out of your mind. And so I want to read for you verses 9 and 10. We've kind of just stuck in that area, but there's this one specific person, and it's not really Daniel. Daniel's involved with it, but I can't get my mind off of this one other individual. So if you're following along today, or you want to read later, it's in Daniel chapter 1. This part won't be on the screen for you, but it's verses 9 and 10. It says this. Now, God had caused for the official, that is the one who was looking over Daniel and his friends, he said he caused for the official to show favor and sympathy to Daniel. But the official told Daniel, I am afraid of the Lord my king, who has assigned your food and drink. Why should he see you looking worse than the young men your age? Remember, Daniel has said, hey, I'm not going to defile myself of that food and drink from the royal table, and so I need something else. And so the official ends up by saying this, the king would then have my head because of you. In other words, basically, he's saying, I think your idea might be okay. I don't know exactly where you're going with this, but if I don't obey what the king says, it's going to be my head. In 1983, when receiving the Templeton Prize for Progress in Religion, a man by the name of Alexander Swojcicki, boy, it's Monday morning early and trying to say something like that. Here's what he did. He recalled the words that he heard as a child when his elders sought to explain the ruinous upheavals in Russia. Their words were this: men have forgotten God. That's why all of this has happened. So Alexander added, if I were called upon to identify briefly the principal trait of the entire 20th century, here too I would be unable to find anything more precise and pithy than to repeat once again, men have forgotten God. You know, we are living in an ever-increasing time in which people are forgetting God. What is even more disturbing is that some of these people sit in church pews each week. They sing songs of praise. They open their study Bibles during a small group class. These people give great lip service, and yet their hearts are far or are moving far from God. And I believe that a primary reason for this is the fear of what others might do or say to them. The official in this story of Daniel was intrigued with the convictions of Daniel and his three friends. There was something different about Daniel that drew this man's attention. But when faced with the decision to carry out Daniel's request of forfeiting the king's food and wine, this official began to backtrack. And Daniel was quick on his feet. Without compromising, Daniel thought of a very practical, creative solution that saved his life and the lives of the companions, and I believe also saved the official's head. It's found in verses 11 through 16. I want to read it for you this morning. Daniel said to the guard, whom the chief official had appointed over Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, "Please test your servants for 10 days. Give us nothing but vegetables to eat and water to drink." This has become a popular diet plan for a lot of people. It's called the Daniel diet. Verse 13, "Then compare our appearance with that of the young men who eat the royal food. Treat your servants in accordance with what you see." So he agreed to this and tested them for 10 days. At the end of the 10 days, they looked healthier and better nourished than any of the young men who ate of the royal food. So the guard took away their choice food and the wine they were to drink, and he gave them vegetables instead. You know, the Babylonians were trying to change the thinking of these Jews by giving them a Babylonian education. They were trying to change their loyalty by changing their names. And they were trying to change their lifestyle by changing their diet. Daniel wisely chose to negotiate rather than to rebel. Daniel found a way to live by God's standards in a culture that did not honor God. And I believe Daniel's actions gave further proof to this official, who was really in charge of everything around the king. He found out who was really in charge of all things. It wasn't the king. It was God orchestrating the events. As we wind our time up this morning, I've asked for Pete to put a scripture from the New Testament on the screen. It's a scripture that gives to us a very sad commentary of some who were wanting to believe in Jesus. It reads this way. It'll show up on your screen. "At the same time, many among the leaders believed in him," that is Jesus. But that word gives us already an idea that there's going to be a change of plans. "But because of the Pharisees, these leaders would not confess their faith for fear that they would be put out of the synagogue." They were afraid that they were going to be excommunicated, that they were going to be ostracized. The sad part is in verse 43. "For they loved the praise from men more than the praise from God." And in a way, I see these two stories connected. I see that a lot of times we who are followers of Christ, followers of God, are somewhat afraid to do something, much like this official did in Daniel's story, for fear that there might come harm on us. And in the story of John chapter 12, these men wanted to follow Jesus. They really wanted to surrender to him, and yet for fear of their peers. And so I want to encourage of you again to stay strong. Stay true to your commitment. Stay true to God in all things, and he will help you through whatever you're dealing with. Thank you for watching again this week, and we will have you next week on the 8th, April 8th, for Plugged In. Have a wonderful week.